You have a scene with hundreds of lights, and you have all of them distributed in the scene. Now, the question is, what to do to not get lost? I give you some tips that help you with this task. Here we used almost 200 lights, which is not a small number, but still, we have been able to smoothly create a well-balanced lighting scenario. How is that? Our main source of light is the light from the buildings that we can divide into the main light sources and the ones that imitate LED lights. And then, we have the environment light that brightens up the shadows. Finally, we have lights from street light that not only brighten up the dark areas, but also add accent lights to the pavement. In the end, as a final touch, we have lights from the cars. All of this combined together is well balanced, creating the impression of harmony. Light mix is the place where the magic happens, but we have to make it work for us, as otherwise it won't be helpful. The idea is to have different lights on separate layers in a way that makes them easy to control. As an example, in the city image, we of course have environment light on a separate layer. Then we have lights from each building on different layers, so we can adjust the intensity and colors one by one if we wish. Then streetlights are divided into two layers, as the one closest to the camera was too intense in comparison to others, so we used the trick to control them separately. And also the LED lights that are created in the buildings have their own layer to have the ability to adjust the main light source and the LED lighting so they match each other. At the end, the lights from the cars. So you can see that it's very easy to control these lights, even though there are almost 200 of them. Talking about the lights, we cannot miss the light balance. It's a hassle when it comes to the scenes with many lights. However, if you have your scene prepared correctly and everything is straightforward, the task is way easier. So the idea is to approach the complex lighting scenario in the same way as a simple image. You cannot just place the lights randomly with the same intensity as the image will be flat. We have to choose what is our primary light and which one is secondary. A good idea is to approach lighting separately by working on one at a time. So in this example, this is our primary light. We can call it key light. It should be the strongest light. This light will also cast shadows. And for the brightening of the shadows, we have the fill lights. It shouldn't be as strong as the key light. We can make the fill light larger to get a softer effect. Remember that this light cannot cast its own shadows when both lights are on. As we have two lights set up separately, then we should see how they work together. You can notice that the fill light is not creating its own shadows. It only brightens up the shadows of the key light. We can also control the light's temperature if this fits our idea. And the same will be with our city image. The first step will be choosing what is our key light. Then use the fill lights only to brighten up the shadows from a main light source. In the end, we can add some additional lights like task or accent lighting. You can see that the idea is exactly the same as with a simple scene. On top of this, when creating lights, think about how it looks in reality. For instance, you should not copy the lights evenly. Make variations. Turn off some lights to make a realistic effect. Also, always think about what you want to highlight with the use of lights. For instance, here we position the light close to the wall to highlight the entrance to the building. A really cool option that may be helpful with complex lighting scenes is a light lister. I will show you what we can do in Chaos Corona 10 as a bonus tip, as it has more options. In Corona 9, the lister looks like this, and you can change parameters from here. Let me present to you the lister from the Chaos Corona 10 though, so you know what are the possibilities. There are more options here, but let's focus on the lights. So you can see that we have instanced lights grouped. If there is any light that is unique, it's on the list separately. We can check which lights are included in specific groups, and we can do a bunch of things from here. We can select them, for instance, or we can turn them on and off. Basically, we can adjust most of the light's parameters from here. So we don't have to look for the light in the scene, we can quickly find it here and adjust. We can even change the shape of the light from here. Want to add a directionality? Not a problem, just type the value here. We can control the visibility options as well. It can make your production process smooth if you incorporate the lister into your workflow. By the way, in Chaos Corona 10 you can also control cameras, displacement and proxies from the Corona lister. The next thing, the layers. We can make real use of them. We have a dedicated layer for lights. Now, we have all the lights on the one layer. However, in the scenes with lots of light, it's worth sorting out them even more. To do this, we can create sublayers and classify the lights into various categories. We can create sublayers for each building. Now, we can create another level of sublayers if needed. There is no reason for this here though. If you want to create a sublayer on the same level as before, to select the main layer first. So in this case, I created 4 sublayers. 3 are dedicated to buildings, and 1 to street lamps. So lights for each building are on the separate sublayer, and I can easily turn them off and on. And the lights from the street lamps are separate as well. It's especially useful if you have lots of lights that are not instances, so you cannot easily select them. If that were the case, you would only have to select all the children from the layer. The advantage of having groups is that once you group objects, you can treat them as a single object in your scene. This makes the production process faster. For example, it's perfect when you want to copy objects with lights, like in our case. You can save a lot of time by selecting them in groups as well. I also keep the groups on the lights layer. You can see that, for example, on the street lamps sublayer. So I not only have lamps here, but also the groups. Let me isolate the lights for a moment. In this case, as I have two-sided street lamps, I group the lights into pairs. This way, copying and positioning the lights was way easier during the production process. It also may work, for example, in the exterior night shot where you have many lamp models with lights, or when you are working on the lighting along a garden path.